Hey, pal.
Hey, can you hear me okay there, Marty?
Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Aside from doing interviews where they ask you the same questions over and over and over again, how's your day going so far?
Excellent. It beats, hey man, this is no whining from me. This beats real work, so I'm happy.
So you got the guitar right there,
Yeah.
and the new record is coming out in about 6 weeks, 5, 6 weeks. Altitude. When did you actually finish Altitude?
It was one of those records that we had ready to go. We were going to go to California and record it before the pandemic hit. Then the world started crashing down and Capitol Studios shut down. So we had to have the conversation amongst ourselves as the band. Do we let this just ride and come back to it at the end of the pandemic, whenever that might be, or do we do it now while it's hot? And so we agreed to do it now while it was hot. So we put on masks and stood 6 feet apart and just trudged our way through. That wasn't a very inspiring situation, but we got it done. And I'm glad we did, because I don't think the record would have turned out the way it did had we have waited.
How many songs from the record are you playing live these days when you're on tour?
Well, let's see. We play Country Star, Friend of Mine, Space, Sitting Alone, Angels Came Down, and we're about to work up Silver Tomahawk. And we've already done Vegas. So there's 7.
Same band on the record is on the road these days?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's one of the things about you and your career that I admire, the longevity. In other words, it wasn't like you went away for 15 years. You still look cool. You're still doing an album every few years. You're still on the road, etc. Where you are now, did you have any idea that you were going to be there when you first hit it?
Man, I have to tell you, the day that Lester Flatt gave me my job in Glasgow, Delaware, at a bluegrass festival, I was 13 years old, and he called me to the front of the bus and he patted the seat, said, "Sit down here next to me. I want to show you something." And there were 2 old people walking toward his bus, and the lady had a pie. And he said, "You see those people right there?" I went, "Yes, sir." He said, "They've been coming to see me since me and Earl Scruggs were with Bill Monroe in the 1940s. And when we broke away and went into being Flatt and Scruggs, they still came. They still come. Do you know why?" I went, "No, sir." He said, "Because we treat our people good." And so he gave me that lecture. Then he went on to say, it is not about coming to a town, taking all the money, all the awards, being the most famous guy in town for 3 years, and then getting lost. He said, the trick is to be welcome every January 1st. And I went, "Yes, sir." And I knew what he was talking about. And so under that kind of guidance, I started my career. And so that has been the hope down through the years, is just to keep it current, keep it relevant. Some years are better than others, but it's always around.
That sounds like the exact opposite career path of Chuck Berry, who I love, but Chuck Berry was notorious for pay me everything in cash, then I'll hit the stage. I'm not going to meet the band before I get on the stage. And this song's an E, 1, 2, 3, 4. Marty Stuart's the opposite of Chuck Berry.
Man, but we're big Chuck Berry fans. We love Chuck Berry in our band. We tell Chuck Berry stories. His son, Charles Berry Jr., comes to visit us in St. Louis from time to time. So we tell Chuck stories, but man, you have to go to an entirely different level of commitment as the father of rock and roll. When you live by those standards, it's like, whoa, I couldn't do it. It'd drive me nuts.
Well, another thing that, I really admire about you is when you were having top 40 singles, every single on the mainstream charts and not just the country charts, you were known as a guitar player at a time when predominantly it wasn't the lead singer who could also solo. Did you have anyone early on going, "Hey, Marty, leave it to the other guys on the guitar stuff"?
No, because being a guitar player was part of the package, or being a mandolin player. My favorite kind of artists were the guys that could play as well as sing and write. That was the best combination. Neil Young was making a record called Old Ways, and I ran into Waylon downtown. Waylon was hanging out with Neil. He said, "You want to come right out to a Neil Young session?" I went, "Sure." This is in the early 90s, I guess. So I rode out to the studio, and there sits Neil. He's writing a song. He walked in there and produced it and sang it and played the guitar on it. And then he went behind the console and mixed it. And then I understand that he arranged the album and, you know, sequenced the album and talked about the artwork. I went, he was the first guy that I ever saw that did everything.
Mm.
And I went, that really had a profound effect on me. And I thought, this is, if you're going to do this for a living, you're going to run a band, that's how you need to do it right there. So that was an eye opener to run into that scene.
And that's documented. I had the pleasure a couple of years ago of getting your coffee table book for the Pilgrim album, where we saw that you documented everything from that era. Does that happen with most of your albums and tours where the photographers are always around?
Yeah, I'm one of those. I'm a photographer, so I welcome good photographers, real photographers. And there's always a photographer hanging around, or it's at that point in my life now, people pay attention to how many shows I do every year with the band, and they keep up with those kind of things. So I don't have to be quite as tedious about it as I used to be, but it's an honor for somebody to see enough worth in the create, you know, the situation to pick up, to take it up and make a calls out of it. So that's pretty good.
A lot of your peers now have traveling exhibits because the memorabilia is important. They kept stuff. Could we see a Marty Stuart traveling exhibition in the future?
Traveling exhibit, we're building an entire cultural center for it down in Mississippi called the Congress
Really?
of Country Music. Yeah, I mean, there's like 20,000 items in the collection. It's not just my stuff, but I mean, like, this is Jimmy Rogers' guitar. And there's profound items. So we've done traveling exhibits in the past. I've done those. And I've loaned things to museums, of course, but it will have a permanent home at the Congress of Country Music down in Philadelphia, Mississippi. You're invited.
Score. Philadelphia, Mississippi, your hometown. Had anyone made it from your town before you?
So musically, no. There were some star athletes from there, a couple of star business people. I think I was the first musician to ever swing it across the fence there. There's a contemporary country cat named Hardy.
Oh, Hardy's from there.
Hardy's from Philadelphia, Mississippi as well. So it's in the water down there, I suppose.
Hardy's an interesting one in that he's kind of defying all the genres where you go, is he a country artist? Is he a hard rock guy? Is he a hip hop guy? Which Kid Rock did 20 years or so before that. We're starting to see that. In your case, did you start off with rock influences before you got into country, or did it all start with country?
Well, it started with my radio station, the same one probably Hardy listened to. Is that it was WHOC. They're still on the air in Philadelphia, but it signed on with country music. And at the noon hour, they played an hour of Southern gospel music. Afternoon was rock and roll. Late afternoon was soul music. Then they signed off with easy listening. That was every day of the week. And so I was a sponge. I listened to everything and everybody, but it was country music that got my heart the deepest. But man, I listened to everybody down there. It was a great little radio station. It was almost like an educational radio station to me.
What's the heaviest music that you ever got into? Did you ever have hard rock influences?
What do you call heavy?
I'm not talking about death metal, but I'm saying, were you into Deep Purple at the time?
Not so much. I mean, I was in, if you want to really go to the scary part of the world, follow me and I'll take you into some of the subject matter of some of the earliest country recordings, like Little Girl and the Dreadful Snake. You know, the songs like Unloved and Unclaimed, but she lay on a slab in the old city morgue, despised, neglected, no name, but they'll lay her to rest in Potter's Field this morning. She'll lay there unloved and unclaimed. That was the kind of stuff I listened to when I was a little kid. And then I would hear, you know, all the rock and roll bands of the day come around with, well, you think you're heavy, but I can show you a heavier place. You might be louder, but you're not heavier.
That is mind blowing, Marty. Well, one more question for you, and then I'm going to let you roam free. And that's, you've managed to maintain mystique over the years. Like, we know you from your music, but we don't know what you do in your free time. Do you have a favorite TV show at the moment, or a show you could recommend?
Do you know what I've fallen into lately is It's an old sitcom called Frasier.
Oh yeah.
I love the writing on that show, and there's another one called Everybody Loves Raymond. Just the writing on those shows. I love good writing. Those are the two. I don't do much TV time anymore, but when I do get around to it and they're on, I'll tend to watch those.
So
They make me
classic
laugh.
sitcoms are your thing.
Well, at the moment they make me laugh, and I think everybody could use a good laugh these days.
Paltrocast.